is this your work? You can see it right
Yes,
there.
this
You did
is-
that. How long did
yes.
that take?
A
A day, an hour, a week, a month?
couple of hours.
A couple of hours. And so you were trained in this.
Yes. I started teaching myself, as many of us did. Picked it up and dropped it up as I brought up 5 children.
Yeah. So you went to school for calligraphy. You were a calligraphist.
I was a calligrapher and I studied with various people from all over the world, but I didn't go to school for it.
Okay. So control, no control. Where does calligraphy kind of fall in the spectrum?
Total control. One of the reasons I loved it, because, you know, with 5 kids running around, the only thing I could control was a piece of paper.
And so, you know, the other 2 images I showed, you were commissioned to do those. Is this one of your 5 kids' poetry for
Yes,
Halloween?
this was his 7th grade assignment for Halloween. And I took this also, this was a different kid. I took their Halloween poems and did them in calligraphy.
And so here
And-
you put the witch on one side and the little child looking up.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what's going on here? So is this calligraphy? Is that
It's
you?
a calligraphy of life.
Right. So your youngest son, right?
Right.
Tammin, who I actually was on the phone with earlier today. So Tammin said, "Mom, take me around to go to surfing lessons," or
No, he wanted to be a surfer. He had to do something nobody else did.
so you were the driver.
And I learned to drive
Yeah.
in my late 40s,
And that's your husband,
and that's my husband.
and he didn't. This is like Saudi Arabia. He didn't like you to drive early.
He didn't allow me to drive.
So it's not he didn't like you. He didn't. He said no to
didn't allow
driving.
me to
Right.
drive.
But so here you're driving Tammin around to these surfing things.
Yes, he was picked up.
And so you would just stand in the background as your son would get out in the ocean and surf.
Oh, I didn't stand in the background. I carried all the stuff.
Yeah.
I fed him.
Yeah. Right. But you didn't surf.
No.
No.
Oh, no.
No. Okay. But I have evidence that you do surf. Okay. So what happened? Where did you go from background player, driver, now that something changed in your situation, to you're holding a surfboard?
A wonderful woman in Narragansett on a very hot day said, "Why don't you go in?" I, of course, replied, I wouldn't think of it. "Why not?" "Well, it's too cold." I never went into the water except once when I'd gone in to make sure I could rescue the kid if I had to. And the other is, I don't know how. And when it was hot enough, I agreed to go in. And she showed me how to take a wave on a bodyboard. I'd never done that. And from there, a couple of years later, I said, all right, time to stand up like a man.
So does this come in? Does
Yeah, this comes in when I stood up on a surfboard
can I
in
get
my
a camera
50s.
close up here? Where's the guy with the portable? You can. So if you
This
look
is my
here, oh my
ticket.
God, yeah. So it says first place. Oh, it fell. Okay. So you're driving Tammin, and then someone says, "Well, why don't you surf?" And you say, "Okay." And then you won this. This was a first prize for women surfing.
That's
How many
right.
women surfed that day?
Maybe 3 or 4, but we were trying to get more women in because it was really very nasty. We were denigrated. Nobody did it because everybody made fun of us.
So here you're surfing. So talk about this day. I
Oh,
think
well-
you told me this was a pretty interesting day.
Well, that's a little later. That's because of the kid. And I still call him the kid, even though he's now getting paid off. He's got 2.5 of his own. This is Cape Hatteras, where because I was in competition, I got the invitation to the Easterns. And
So
I
by
went-
now, are you a champion? At this point, you're a surfing champion.
I'm a champion because I did it.
Yeah. Okay. Because you showed up.
because I showed up and I loved it.
Yeah.
And Hatteras was another story. It's a very dangerous place, and the competitions are held at hurricane time when the surfers could afford to go because nobody else is there.
So if I went back to this spot right now, what's in the background,
Yeah.
the year after you surfed this, is that still there?
Nope.
No. So the weather,
I looked at that pier and I said, oh, this whole place is very fragile. That pier is very fragile. I actually did a couple of paintings of it.
Yeah. Well, don't go there just yet. All right. So I like Surf Diva. That's pretty cool. So where are some places you've traveled to go surfing, and maybe just one word or one sentence on each of them?
In the Atlantic, down the East Coast, in New Jersey, I learned how to take a riptide. That was the way out. And I thought to myself, you've got to be out of your mind. I went. I lay down on the board, just as Peter told me, and I picked up my head and I was halfway to England. And then I went, at another time, I went to Virginia Beach, where I had my first real instruction by a girl, a young woman who saw me struggling. And it turns out that there's a group of women there called the Wahinis. And they teach and encourage with love, which is kind of rare in the surfing community. On the on the Pacific, I've done Hawaii, where
You have to paddle out far.
yeah, paddled out for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the ride in was so long I could have read a novel. And Costa Rica was wonderful.
Okay, so let's switch. So you're wearing Surf Diva, that's cool. But where are you right now? Is that?
I'm in my studio.
Yeah. Is this where you do your calligraphy? Or you don't do
Not
calligraphy
much.
anymore? Right. So now you look like Poseidon holding a So what is this? This is art you've done?
Yes, and that's a paintbrush I use. I used that when I wanted to give up control. You can't control the paint when you're 3 feet away from it. It begins to tell you. And the story is really about learning to give up control and gain another kind of control. Because from controlling my life, getting on a surfboard, I couldn't control the wave. I couldn't control the weather. I couldn't control the board. And I learned to work with it.
So let's go through a few of your images and your paintings and just describe them. What do we have here?
You have my fear. The huge waves that, I'm thinking to myself, I am a perfectly sensible matron. I'm not going out in that. And of course, out I went.
What do we got here?
That's a calmer day. This is this is cheap therapy. This is more of my fear. And this is the ocean. I have a friend who said, why don't you ever have a horizon line? And I said, because I guess I'm in the middle of it all the time.
How about this one?
This is the surfboard going out into the sunset. This is the wild ocean. This is danger.
Just to be clear, she did all these. So if you want to clap. What do we got here?
This is Cape Hatteras at night, looking out of my motel window.
Is that the one where you were like this?
Yeah. And the one, and that's just a drawing of waves. This is recently done with a horse's tail, a brush that's a horse's tail, and that's riding a wave.
Okay, and then this is sculpture you made?
Well,
Is that you on a board?
yeah, it's really coming out of one's own limitations.
So I like this image, and this is the last image. You said that you were a calligraphist, then you started surfing, and surfing influenced your art, and now you do this abstract stuff. And then here, what are you taking from your surroundings that are helping to contribute to this?
Well, every beach I go to all over the world, I mean, people get on the planes going home carrying all this very expensive stuff, and I go home carrying sand. And this is a sand painting where, when you go traveling, you have all these explorations and adventures. And what's wonderful is to bring them home inside and to process your pleasure and what you've learned. And I've done it in paint.
So you're 82 young?
Yeah.
Best is ahead of you. What advice do you have for others who may not think you can teach a dog new tricks? Because you taught yourself how to do this kind of art form. You taught yourself how to surf. Any advice for people as they think about the next chapters?
Whatever brings you joy is where you go. Now, I can't believe I can still get on a surfboard, but the truth is, in their 80s, my competition isn't other surfers. It's called gravity. So every time you get up and you have a wonderful time in the foam, you're a winner.
Great.